South Korea's new President Lee Jae-myung said he'll pursue dialogue with North Korea while bolstering a trilateral partnership with the US and Japan. The liberal clenched victory in South Korean snap elections on June 3rd, 6 months to the day after he evaded military cordons to vote against a shock martial law decree imposed by his ousted predecessor. Conservative Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached for trying to impose martial law in South Korea late last year, leading to wide-ranging protests. Lee said in his inaugural address a day after his election that his government will deal with potential North Korean aggressions with a strong deterrence based on the solid South Korea-US military alliance. But he would also leave the door open for dialogue with North Korea and establish peace on the Korean peninsula, Lee said. He said he'll pursue pragmatic diplomacy and boost a trilateral Seoul-Washington-Tokyo cooperation based on the South Korea-US alliance. Lee rose from childhood poverty to become South Korea's leading liberal politician, vowing to fight inequality and corruption. Lee's term began immediately without the usual 2-month transition period after the National Election Commission formally confirmed his victory Wednesday morning. In a telephone call with Joint Chiefs of Staff Kim Myung-soo, Lee asked the military to closely monitor North Korean moves and maintain a solid readiness based on the combined South Korea-US military alliance, according to local TV footage. Lee later visited the National Cemetery in Seoul to pay respects to late Korean leaders, patriots, and war dead who are buried there. With more than 99% of the votes counted, the Democratic Party's Lee stood at 49.3% to PPP candidate Kim Moon-soo's 41.3%, according to National Election Commission data. Nearly 80% of South Korea's 44.39 million eligible voters cast their ballots, the highest turnout for a presidential election in the country since 1997. Lee termed the polls Judgment Day against Yoon's martial law and the People Power Party's failure to distance itself from that decision. After losing by a razor-thin margin in 2022, the left-leaning Democratic Party candidate is now set to take office Wednesday after winning a landslide victory. Lawsuits, scandals, armed troops, and a knife-wielding attacker all failed to deter 60-year-old Lee Jae-myung's ascendancy from sweatshop worker to the South Korean presidency. Opponents decry Lee for his populist style, but his rags-to-riches personal story sets him apart from many of South Korea's political elite. After dropping out of school to work at a factory to support his family, he suffered a disabling elbow injury in an industrial accident. He earned a scholarship to study law and passed the bar to become an attorney. Lee has used this origin story to cultivate a loyal support base and frame himself as understanding the struggles of the underprivileged. Lee previously served as mayor of Seongnam, south of Seoul, for 8 years. In that role, he helped shut down what had been the country's largest dog meat market, ending a trade that had once involved 80,000 canines a year. He later served as governor of Gyeonggi Province, the country's most populous region surrounding the capital, for more than 3 years. In 2024, he was stabbed in the neck by a man posing as a supporter and was airlifted to hospital for emergency surgery. The attacker later confessed that his intention was to kill Lee to prevent him from becoming president. Lee has vowed, among other things, to boost South Korea's artificial intelligence industry, with the goal of making the country one of the top 3 global leaders in the field. Lee has been married to Kim Hye-kyung for 34 years and shares 2 children. Lee has been dogged by legal troubles of his own, including allegations of corruption tied to a real estate development and violations of election law through the dissemination of false information. He has denied any wrongdoing, insisting the charges are politically motivated. In early May, Seoul's Supreme Court overturned a lower court's acquittal of Lee on election law charges and ordered a retrial. But with the election looming, the Seoul High Court postponed the proceedings until after the June 3rd vote. With Lee's victory, legal experts say the proceedings are set to be suspended due to presidential immunity and only resume after his single 5-year term ends in 2030. Lee's opponents had argued the charges were serious enough to disqualify him from running.
Does the White House have a reaction to the results of the election in South Korea?
Yes, we do. In fact, let me find it here for you. It should be somewhere in here. Right here. We do not, but I will get you one, Jeff. Go ahead. Thanks, Caroline.